Yesterday, I had the pleasure of photographing a birthday party of the mother of one of my clients who is well past her 80s and is still in good health. Now, one of the reasons why, for me, this is kind of like a special thing is because previously the birthdays that I have photographed have been roughly in the 70-ish range, and also because my maternal grandmother lived to be about 80 before she passed. And of course, when I was a little boy, my father told me that thing, the whole thing about the sum of your life being four scores. Is it three scores plus 10 and four scores if you're strong, or something like that? It used to be a popular saying back in the day that pretty much the average person could expect to live up until about 70 and 80 and beyond if you are strong. So it always is a good thing whenever, for me anyway, whenever I happen to hang around those folks, 70 and beyond, and in the case of this woman, 80, and she seems to be still going strong. Now, what does that have to do with the business? Nothing directly, except the conversation that I had with my client at the end of the session. So it was a portrait session, and then because of COVID protocols and, of course, people being far away, these days, the modern family, people are scattered all over the place. Not everybody is in one city like Abuja or Lagos. You have some people abroad. So there was the photographing session, then there was the Zoom session, and then some of the neighbors came by to have item number 7. So after the shoot, my client is real happy and everything, and she's like, the photos look really nice because she can see them at the back of the camera. And she's like, when will they be ready? And then I say, like I usually say, well, I'll need 4 days maximum to have the photos ready. And then she says, no, 4 days is not going to work for me. I already told Sister BC this, Sister Tinuke this, blah, blah, blah. That 4 days cannot work. That 4 days cannot work. And we were able to resolve the issue and set realistic expectations, because there's no way that the photos are going to be ready that night, especially since it was ready about 9 p.m. and I was still in the house. So there's no how that photos were going to be ready that night. So while the conversation was going on, mentally I was hitting myself on the head saying, Tabishima, you've been through this hundreds of times, so you should have known to set the expectations right up front. Now, for the average wedding and event professional, this is the point where they think having a contract is going to solve all your problems. And you put it there in the contract that you're going to take 4 days to deliver the photo, or 4 days to deliver the cake, or 4 days to install the sound system in the wedding hall. I mean, whatever it is, it's in the contract that we usually put all the key terms. And so we just assume that once you put the contract down in writing and hand it over, then everything is done. Now, I am of the opinion that the average client in Nigeria don't read contracts and riders and provisos and things like that. So I don't think it would have made much of a difference if this was something that I had distilled in writing and made part of the contractual process. Now, what I believe and what I tell most of the folks who I hang out with is that you need to do a good job of setting up your expectations, your contractual expectations. You need to do a good job of setting this up verbally and repeatedly, so that there is no way that they can say they were not aware of it at all. So what I should have done, and what my usual practice is while we're having the initial toasting, it's something that I say, on average, it's going to take 4 days for the photographs to be ready. After payment is made, is one of the things that I say. Thanks, I've received the payment. So just to be sure that we are in agreement, the shoot is on the 1st of October. And remember that photographs are going to be ready in about 4 days. So you should have your photographs ready on the 5th. Or is that on the 6th? And then, of course, at the or at the event, in this case, it was a birthday party. It's something that I mentioned again. Okay, it was a wonderful evening. Thanks for the food and the good company. I really had fun. So, the next step is to remember that the photographs are going to be ready in about 4 days. So I look for ways in the conversation process when we start the conversation, while we're negotiating, while the project is being delivered. I look for ways to state the key expectations upfront and summarize them over and over and over again. In fact, there's some sales material that I came across quite early in my studies, which suggested that the optimum amount to repeat something so that it sticks with the average client is 6 times. So that if something is key to your business process, you have to find ways of repeating it 6 times so that they get the picture. So when we are in those situations where we're faced with the client and then the client is saying, 4 days is not going to work, the problem is not that the client is being unrealistic. The problem is that we didn't do a good job of setting the expectations up front. Because I run into people who have a contracting process and who insist that the problem is the client's because they wrote it in the contract, they sent the contract to the client 2 weeks ahead, so the client should have read it and the client should have known. Whether we choose to have a contracting process or not, the responsibility is on us and not the client. So even if you have a contract, you send it in, but they don't read it, and they still keep saying, 4 days is not going to work for the delivery of the cake, 4 days is not going to work for the delivery of the photographs. You have to take responsibility for the process. And this is one of the things that we have to be proactive about. So we have to find ways of setting out these expectations in conversation as we are negotiating, as we are wrapping up, and as we are delivering. So that is our responsibility. So that is it for today. Thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Davishima Ayede. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.